your body, but they come to see
This meeting is being recorded.
Got it. Got it.
Greetings, Andrew.
Andrewji, namaste.
Greetings. Greetings, everyone.
Marty, while we're waiting, did you have any occasion to speak with Jay about Ronald and Michael Jackson?
No, Ji, not still. I couldn't go, I've been busy.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
I've been still busy, couldn't go and meet him.
Okay. Is all well?
All is well, all is well. Just hectic schedule.
Good. Why, I think we have Antonia with us. Are you
Yes,
there, dear
surprise
sister?
visit.
Yes, hello.
Well, how nice. How nice to have you with us. I've been speaking, I mentioned a number of years ago, who wrote one of the finest books on Zora.
Oh, you just read one on Zora?
I've been speaking with someone who wrote, a dear sister who wrote one of the finest books on Zora.
Oh,
And,
wonderful. Yeah, I have pretty much everyone's book.
I want to get you in touch. Let me tell you what her name is. Good evening, Louis. Just 1 minute.
Good evening to everyone.
Colonelji, good evening. Colonel Lewisji,
Greetings. Greetings.
Do you have the book by Diana Miles on Zora? It's one of the best ones, Antonia.
Let me see, Diana. What's the name
Yeah.
of it?
I don't know if I have the title here. Hang on a moment. If you Google Diana Miles, Zora Neale Hurston. Patrick, you know about Zora, I trust.
Yes, I was going to mention, you mentioned Ronald McDowell a few minutes ago, and recently, well, a couple of years ago, I commissioned Ronald McDowell to do a piece of art for me. I wanted him to do Lewis Adams, and we kind of went back and forth about the price, but he ended up doing a piece with Lewis Adams, George Washington Carver, Booker T. Washington, Rosa Parks, and Zora Neale Hurston on one big canvas that I bought from him, and it's beautiful. So, but what I do know, Diane Robinson did a play where in the play she referenced when Zora Neale Hurston was very, very young, and she would go to, it was in, let me see, what was the city? Eatonville.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
And so they were developing. It's one of, they call them Booker T's towns. It's one of the 5 towns that Booker T had a profound impact on establishing. And when Zora Neale was a child, they would all gather at this man named Clark's house, and they would tell stories, and she would linger to hear these stories, and a lot of the stories ended up in her literature when she became an adult.
right.
So I thought that was a fascinating.
Store. That was the little store that she would hang around, and the men would be on the
Right.
store stories. Yes.
Right. In fact, there was one guy named Clark, and they had something called, was it the bragging porch or the lying porch or something like that, where they would sit around and tell kind of stories that they didn't want the children to hear. And she
Right.
would linger around doing under the auspices of doing chores for her mother, she would linger around longer to hear those stories.
Right.
And I thought that was pretty good. Yeah, they ended up in her literature, and I thought that was pretty cool.
And it also helped her with her research. Because, you
Yes.
know, that's the foundation of her. She would get grants. And of course, Barnard College, Franz Boas at Barnard College, you know, he wanted to make sure she was getting the research. So he was, you know, also a big help to her research and providing her with the necessary things to travel. And so
Right.
she used her own home. She used her home where she was from as like her study case.
Right. That's great stuff. Great stuff she was doing. Awesome history.
Yes, so
Well-
hopefully I am doing Zora again this year. So I'm looking for a place. So I'm gonna be looking for a venue, a theater this, you know, in New York somewhere.
Patrick, can you invite Antonia to bring Zora to Tuskegee and welcome Susan? Welcome, Susan.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. And speaking of
Yeah.
venues, we've got a venue, I believe in Connecticut somewhere, where we're going to be doing a short opera that has just been written called The End of Tyranny. So hopefully many people will come to see that.
Wonderful. Wonderful. But Patrick, seriously,
I can talk to
we-
Diane Robinson about it. Yeah. That might be
Well, that-
something definitely she would be interested in. So I'll see if the theater is available.
well, not just the theater there, the Tuskegee Repertoire Theatre, which is wonderful, but also the university. Because as you said, maybe you could even introduce as the great grandson of the founder of Tuskegee, Lewis Adams, maybe you could introduce Antonia and the connection between Eatonville and Zora and Tuskegee. And here we have Queen Mother. So just to plant that seed, Andrew, Patrick, just to plant that seed.
I'd love to come.
And before
I'd love to come hear the Zora show. I really want to do that because I love Zora Neale Hurston.
So before we invite Queen Mother to open up, I want to just read a passage that Antonia, my dear sister, shared with me. And when I heard that my grandson, my second son, married a woman from Soweto, South Africa, and they have 3 beautiful children, and one of them, so half white, half black, and one of them had his first experience of prejudice. And my son shared it with me, and when I was visiting, I took Tsuelo with me into the bathroom. There's a big mirror. And I said, Swello, look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. And I read these words from Zora. Sometimes I feel discriminated against, but it does not make me angry. It merely astonishes me. How can anyone deny themselves the pleasure of my company? It's beyond me. Isn't that beautiful? And I said that to Tsuelo, and he took a deep breath, and then a smile came on his face. Sometimes I feel discriminated against, but it does not make me angry. It merely astonishes me. How can anyone deny themselves the pleasure of my company? It's beyond me. And maybe to transition to Queen Mother, Antonia, can you say anything about that? And be nice to see you. You know, it's always nice to see one another here. Patrick's hiding in the shadows, but if you wanted to peek at us for a moment, Antonia, be nice. But what do you make of these? How are we to understand these words of Zora's?
Oh, let me turn on trying to turn on my camera. Oh,
Okay.
I have to go back and do the. Oh, Lordy, hold on. Got all this stuff going on. Yeah, well, as we know, sorry guys, it's not that I'm in the dark because I have a lot of light in my place. It just don't look like that. Shucks. Sorry. That right there. That right there.
I hope you've got
Good.
electricity in you. I hope you
I
got
do.
electricity.
My house is very light. It just don't look like I have either bright lights or lights. Like when I sit here, I have the TV on, so that's a lot of light. It just don't look like that on into you all. But I have a lot of light. No, I'm definitely not in the dark. I have a lot of light. Yeah, so just give you a little about Zora. Zora was literally the self-love that she had. So as she grew up with her father being the mayor of the town, the preacher of the town, and her father just having like she got a chance to see an all-black town. So she didn't grow up in a lot of prejudice because everybody, it was a community. So by the time she got to New York, she was already pretty much had a lot of love for herself. Self-love was and that's why her 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 focus was always to celebrate culture and his black culture. Like she was always saying, let's not, although we're in New York and it's the new Elaine Locke new movement, Elaine Locke with the movement of the new Negro that Elaine Locke was spearheading. She was just saying, it's okay, we're all here going to college and we all are learning how to speak well and, be proper and, but let's not forget about the Southern, let's not forget about where we came from. Let's not forget about like our culture, which is what she thought was, was amazing. But as everybody was getting into this new Negro, they were writing to please the white people. And so Zora never did that. And that's why you see a lot of her work is always positive because she always felt good about being an African American woman.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
Yeah,
short,
what a blessed,
yeah.
what a
Yeah.
blessed soul.
Eatonville was the first black town to incorporate in America. So coming from an all-black town, having a father that's the preacher of the town, and the mayor of the town. If you ever watched the movie, her movie, Their Eyes Are Watching God, it's almost like a replica of her life story. Her, like the people, her father, Halle Berry marrying Tea Cake, which is, he was the mayor and all that stuff. So it's kind of like a weaving into some of our life story. There, also watching God. It's on YouTube if you ever watch it.
Beautiful. Patrick and friends, I'm sending you Antonia's website. And Patrick, I think if it would work, I think it'd be wonderful. If you scroll down the website, you'll see her presentation of Zora and how it's touched many, many hearts. I think it'd be wonderful not only to connect her with Diane, which I've introduced them a little bit. They haven't yet had a real conversation, but also at Tuskegee at the university. I think that'd be tremendous if that were possible. So I sent her web address. So let's start in the evening. Welcome, Nikki.
Also, let me let Patrick know, we sold out at the University of Pennsylvania, the Annenberg Theater. We also sold out at the American Theater of Actors, the a theater there on 54th Street. And in February last year, we were just at a 600-seater, the Gerald Lynch Theater at the John Jay College. So we've done other colleges. We've done York College, Brooklyn College, College of Technology, Bronx University. So we've been doing the show a while. Just so
Okay, that sounds great.
yeah, just so you won't think that we just haven't done a show. We've done it a lot.
Okay,
been-
well, I probably need to get you all with the Shakespeare Theater in Montgomery, Alabama, which is a bigger theater. And I've been to a lot of productions there. That'd probably be a better place, a better venue for what you're doing.
I've done Zora. It doesn't matter what theater. I've done Zora in museums. I've done it at the Schomburg a couple of times, and the Schomburg have, of course, the Langston Hughes Theater, which is the big theater, but they also have like the little theater, which is downstairs, where Zora and all those guys kind of started out downstairs. So they still have that little small theater. So I've done it in small theaters. I've done it in large theaters. I've done it at dinner theater. Like it can be. I love it in a larger theater because I get to do all my images, with the screens and stuff. But I've done it without screens with just lighting. When I was at Bronx College, they didn't have any major lighting, inventory. So, we can do gels and change the lighting. I mean, it doesn't always have to be it doesn't always have to be like a big stage inventory and lighting designs like some of the bigger theaters have.
So great. So let us wrap this up. And just to say, Patrick, given the connection between Tuskegee and Eatonville, I think a little bit of history could be made if Antonia could bring Zora to Tuskegee. And you're wonderful to think of Montgomery and so on, but I also think be very important in Tuskegee. I've sent you both each other's email addresses so you can communicate. But with that said, let's take a pause. We have Queen Mother with us, and invite her to offer an opening prayer.
With or without recording?
Let's record it. Just one moment. Thank you, Andrew. I guess, is it recording now?
Yes.
I just pressed record. There
Okay.
we are.
Then
Thank you, Nikki. So if we're recording, then whenever, Queen Mother, you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome each of you to the Center for American Studies at Concord. And this session for tonight, we invite you to share with each of us what God has given you to share. And as we clear our minds and bow our heads in a word of prayer, Father God, we want to thank you for this day of grace and mercy that we had never seen before. We realize that in you we move and have our being. We want to give you thanks for bringing us together in order that we can discuss the platform that has been set before us. Give us strength, give us wisdom, give us knowledge and understanding that we may share it with each other with the redemption love. Keep us, O Lord, in your care. Direct our path. Keep us under the shadows of your wings as we continue to move forward. As we pray, amen.
Amen.
man, thank you.
Amen. So, friends, we are still in sort of in between. We have 2 degree candidates with us, Madi and Lewis. And as I've mentioned, I think you all know Patricia Ann Davis is also, who's the center trustee of Diné Navajo and Choctaw background and really remarkable spirit. She's also going to be getting a degree. And Lewis, I'll be putting you in touch with her. She has some medical matters at the time, but so we know that this works with Bernice, and Bernice has shared with me, and perhaps Bernice, you could share with those tonight a little bit what the meaning and the significance of this degree is, because it's there for anybody and everybody, but we have to reach them. So that's what I wanted to focus on tonight, on how we can reach those who seek such an offering. But Bernice, can you take a moment or two and just share? People have heard, some people have heard, but not everybody, how this has been for you.
For me, it has been wonderful, Mr. Chairman. I have been able to use it to do better work, to captivate people's minds and thoughts. Still not perfect. Still working on trying to get there, but grateful for the help, grateful for the knowledge that I received through going through this program. And I always tell people it's there for you, but you have to choose to get it. It's your choice. If you want it, it's there, but you must choose to get it. And when you come to the table, come with the thought that I bring something and I'm willing to give back to society from what I get from the studies and the fellowship that we have with each other. That is very important because it gives us spiritual insight. It uplifts us. It strengthens us to be able to overcome the challenge. It helps us define ourselves and not allow others to define us. You know, when I listen at others, and more especially when I hear the Zora story, the Zora story tells us how women grows and how they come through conflicts and how they do not allow others to define their character, how they become strong, how they become giving, loving, how they reach out and touch others, how we overcome the challenges that are set before us in life. This is a journey from the beginning to the ending, and we invite you on it. So come join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernice. Thank you. I want to read, friends, a passage that goes to the heart of what this degree offering is about. And the heart is not just in Concord, but it's also in Tuskegee. It's in the South. It's these two streams. And then I'd like to ask Lewis to give us an update, if you wish, Lewis, on your how you're proceeding and what you envision for the degree, and then an update from Madi, and then let's do some brainstorming how we can get the word out. So this is one glimpse of what's behind it. These are words by Stanley Cavell, the former Stanley Cavell, who was a professor of philosophy at Harvard and was the president of the American Philosophical Society. And he was a member of our honorary circle of trustees, and a remarkable spirit. And this is what he says about Ralph Waldo Emerson. And Emerson had said himself, when nature has work to be done, she creates a genius to do it. Follow the great man and woman, and you'll see what the world has at its heart. There's no finer omen. So while I read this about this white brother, Emerson, I do it very much with his black brothers, Lewis Adams, Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver, and others in heart and mind, because they belonged, I think, to the same larger school. So this isn't just particular to Emerson, but it does offer, I think, a valuable insight. And I'm going to see if I can bring it up on the screen so you all can see it while I read. These are rather remarkable words. I'll try to make it a little bit larger. Can people see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is Stanley Cavell was invited to give the graduation address at Iona College. So he's speaking to the students and to their parents. And he says, "This is a most happy occasion for me." And this is really the conquered spirit. This is what is behind our work, and this is what's behind the degrees. Louis, Body, and those who proceed. Perhaps Patrick, you as well. So Stanley speaking, "This is a most happy occasion for me, and I do not wish to mark by speaking of unhappy things. But I will not belittle it by speaking of anything less than what matters most to me as a teacher and a writer and a citizen. One of these matters I share in common with every thinking person on earth, the imagination, or the refusal of imagination, of nuclear war, the most famous issue now before the world. Another matter is, in comparison, one of the most obscure issues of the world, and I shared it most with a few other obscure persons. The inability of our American culture to listen to the words, to possess them in common, of one of the founding thinkers of our culture, Ralph Waldo Emerson. An inability which presents itself to me as our refusal to listen to ourselves. Our refusal to listen to ourselves, to our own best thoughts. The particular odd matter I move to speak about by this occasion is how this famous matter of destructiveness and this obscure matter of the repression of thinking, have come together in my mind. And as I say that, I think of the elemental spirits who bring us together. I had forgotten to acknowledge them, but I want to do so briefly now because they're related to this. So to lead into what an update that Lewis and Marty will offer, tell me, friends, what these words mean to you, if I may, the second paragraph. The inability of our American culture to listen to the words, to possess them in common, of one of the founding thinkers of our culture. But the main point, an inability which presents itself to me as our refusal to listen to ourselves, to our own best thoughts. And he refers to the repression of thinking. What is being said here? And maybe Susan, you can begin. What is being said here? This inability to listen to ourselves, to our own best thoughts.
It's fascinating to me. The way that I come at that is probably different than the way that he's coming. But for me, it means, and I have so much experience with this with people, it's as if there's been a lot of money put into think tanks, these military intelligence and industrial think tanks, that structure our thoughts to be this or that, and we have certain words that we use for this or that, and we can't seem to get out of that. It becomes a bit of a prison, a box in which our heads are. So my role is to kind of get people outside of that box and to think about, what do you really mean? Listen to yourself. What do you really mean from your heart and in your mind? And now let's figure out how to really say what you mean as opposed to what you're told to say. So that's how it resonates with me.
And Susan, can you give some examples specifically so we can live more fully into what you're saying?
Okay. When people come before public officials and they want something good to happen because there is some pressure from some large industry, whether that's big pharmaceutical or it's big ag or it's big telecom or it's the military, and this is encroaching on their personal lives, in their home, in their town, their community, and they go before their public officials and they say, I'm very concerned. And of course, that's what arises to say, because that's how they feel. And they don't realize that in that moment, it's not about just their emotion. If they want to stop this very large, very wealthy force from taking their freedoms, from literally taking their bodies and harming their bodies to some extent, they can't just bring something like concern, or let's say the precautionary principle. It sounds wonderful, right? And everyone wants to bring that. And what they don't realize is that if they come before a public official and say, I don't really know anything about this type of harm, so you've got to protect me, they actually will be completely dismissed, even if they will be completely dismissed if they mention any form of the word concern. Ironically, it's a legal trick that's played behind the scenes by the very wealthy, powerful ones. And so I try to train people to say, rather than starting from yourself and what you're feeling right now, let's start from some facts that will make your public officials do what they should do. So, the fact is that whatever it is, this pesticide, this wireless telecommunications facility, this COVID imposition of a mandate, whatever it is, this is actually harmful to you in a variety of ways. And you can show, and you can substantiate that with evidence. So you bring the evidence, you bring the substantiation, and you say, this is not some mere matter of my personal concern. This is a matter of fact and law. And then you cite some law. And then what about people who want to use the precautionary principle, which sounds so wonderful, right? It's a European law. It works over there. It doesn't work here. But if the person were to say to the public official, I don't know anything about this, so you have to help me, they're not going to get any help, right? They're going to be rejected. So, and that's what the precautionary principle unfortunately does. It concedes, well, where scientific cause and effect relationships aren't established, where we don't know the science, where nobody knows anything, let's protect you anyway. It works sometimes in Europe. It doesn't work in the United States. It's ridiculed. So I have to help people say, what is it that you really mean? Or do you really want to come and say, I don't know anything? No, you want to come, even if you don't know anything, quote someone who does. Find an expert and say, here's what the top expert, blah, 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 says. Now you're in a position of power to move those powerful entities to protect yourself and your family, your community, and your country. Sorry to take so long.
No, Susan, thank you. And friends, Susan is at the forefront nationally and internationally in this field. She's preparing legislation. She has been ongoingly for Trump, for Kennedy, and so on.
In every state, I've written legislation for every state, for the federal government, before this administration for 8 years. So, yeah.
A lot of experience there. So let's move to an overview, an update, Lewis, on your degree, and then Madi, and then let's brainstorm how can we invite others to take advantage of this opportunity with faculty like Susan and many, many other remarkable individuals. So Lewis, do you want to give us an update?
Well, yes, basically, since Stuart and Bernice invited me to join the Center for American Studies, I saw the opportunity to integrate a lot of the work that I have been doing and my life experience, and basically through a paper that I presented last year, if I'm not mistaken. I called it Transformational Leadership in Global Business, and anthroposophical principles and spiritual interconnectedness in relation to innovation, ethics, and organizational culture. Now, how do you pair anthroposophical principles into the business arena? When I was writing my paper, I found out that my whole life has been applying the anthroposophical principles, even without knowing I knew about them. And throughout my professional and military career, regardless of the military training and regardless of the standards and principles and ethics in the industries and in the business realm, my own consciousness and my own way of doing things were based on anthroposophical principles, which regulates my whole life. So that when I started learning about the center, learning about the teachings, Emerson, Steiner, and all the great masters, I found out that in correlation to having been taught with my grandparents and my parents, ethics, structure, process, principles, they all came down to the same fundamentals. And it was easy for me to relate. When I ended up the paper that I wrote, I said, this is basically a picture of my life. The paper became a reflection of my life, and that I have always stood for those principles. And learning about the center, learning about Emerson, learning about Waldorf, learning about the Steiner way of teaching, just emphasized that everything is connected. That's why I say interconnectedness. Everything is connected. And if you stand for ethical principles in one place and you have a way of doing things that are not corrupted, that you abide by the rules, but then you have a discernment to distinguish between what is lawful and what is not lawful or unlawful, you'll find within your whole life that you are met with challenges to decide which way you go. Now, going back and relating to the passage that Stuart talked about, yes, we have a great fear of what is happening today, what is possible that could happen tomorrow. Wars, nuclear wars, famines, diseases. But I've come to realize that that is a lot of propaganda and brainwashing and manipulation by the governments to keep in power, to stay in power. So it's your challenge, each one of us, to discern from what the government is trying to impose. They say that it's for your good, it's for your safety. Well, that's not really true. It's to maintain themselves in power that they do it. And one way that I can provide assistance to other people that surround me, to people that I meet, is translating that knowledge, that wisdom, that spiritual guidance that I have been given, translate that to other people in a way that they can understand it clearly and take away all the clouds and all the screens and all the CGI and all the mumbo jumbo, so that they can go back home, sit down, say, can I relate to that? Can I understand that? What can I do? So, like we all have said before, I'm just putting a little bit, a tiny grain of sand in the minds, in the collectiveness of the people, in order to become full aware of who they are, what they can do, and what they are here to do. Because we all have a challenge, we all have a purpose, we are all connected. We are all part of the oneness. And these 10 beautiful people that are here in this meeting today, we are all connected in many ways, that more than what you think. We didn't come here together, and we are not here together at the center talking about these things because, oh, I just happened to come up with that topic. No, it's all because everything has a purpose. I am fulfilling my purpose by coming to the center, participating, and helping others obtain a degree that otherwise would not be able to be done. I have the expertise in many areas, like so many of you have in other areas, and we are all sharing our knowledge and wisdom to help each other to fulfill our mission. So that is basically my purpose and the reason I am going forward towards the degree. I have 2 bachelor's degrees, I have 2 master's degrees, I have 5 professional certifications. All of that basically translates that I could have already 3 doctor's degrees if I wanted to. That hasn't been the case. But this degree means more to me than most of all the rest of the education that I have had so far, because it is directed towards the spirit, spiritual, spiritual realm and how I connect to other people.
Beautiful.
And that for me is wonderful. As Stuart says many times, it's I can appreciate that much more.
Beautiful. Louis, thank you. You bring a wonderful, wonderful spirit to this work. I think everybody senses it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Madi, can you give us an update on where you are?
Thank you, Stuart G, and thank you, everybody. My initial plan was to just have a doctoral program, become a PhD, call myself Dr. Madhusudhana. But then, as I moved on, I got into Center for American Studies. I understood that the work that we are doing, the science of the spirit and the spirituality, and my own quest on understanding Advaita philosophy opened up. And while I started working on the philosophy of Advaita, there are two things that came to my mind. One is the self-realization of our policy, of our philosophy, and there is one great verse that comes from the Saint Tyagaraja, Indra Mahanabhavalu, that is all of the great souls. These two made me understand I can bring in a thought process to today's corporate culture, today's management, the ethics of the humility. And this is the first paper that I had presented the end of the last calendar. And post that, given this few weeks and the work that I was involved in many other places, today, in fact, this is what I did yesterday when I was having a weekend time with my family out. So when I've been supporting a small group of farmers, around 5,000 families spread across 21 villages near Bangalore city. These farmers have been encroached upon from the government, and yeah, they you know they are not educated in terms of the modern language, not being literate in English, not being literate to understand the ways of the government, not being understanding as to what to put up across. So when the first person came and met me and said, "See, I just want you to make a letter to the governor and to the chief minister of the Karnataka state, where the governor is a Hindi-speaking person that doesn't know Kannada, and the state, the chief minister, because the IAS officer who is the personal secretary to the chief minister is again a North Indian who doesn't understand the local language. So they wanted the letter in English. So while I was drafting the letter in English for them, I understood that this is not just about drafting a letter, but this is about Mother Nature calling me, telling Madhu, look, you are the son of the soil, and here is an opportunity for you to do something, give back to the nature. So there is one, after that letter, yesterday I just wrote this, I just put it on the chat. So this is what I have written it out. They want a strong statement to be sent across. So this is a cry. The providers are the farmers. In our local language, we call them Annadata, the one who provides the food. Anna is the rice. Rice being the staple food for this country, the entire Indians. So without this rice, what do we eat? A handful of rice, if you cannot eat, then you're not eating. So when this itself is torn away from us, because the farmers who provide us this, the land is taken away from them, and they're not able to tilt the land, and they're not able to sow the seeds, and there's no rice grown, there's no paddy grown. So this is the verse. If you allow me, I'll just read it out. The cry of the
Marty,
providers.
Marty, do that. Before you do that, though, thank you. And I do want to hear that.
Okay.
We need to feel where we are with Queen Mother. And as I'm listening, I also think the Center for American Studies should send a letter. So sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to make sure that was stated. So please read it.
And I just want to say too, I have already read what Maddie put in the chat. It is so beautiful, so important, and it's heartrending. And I really support it. And yes, let's do a letter as well. Thank you.
And Susan speaking as a trustee. Thank you, Susan. Marty, again, apologies for all the interruptions.
Please, just a second. Stuart, I have to chime in too. I just read it too. It is so very moving. I just, this moves me beyond belief. I agree with Susan. We should definitely intervene too. Thank you.
Hear from another trustee. Thank you. Marty, you've inspired people, so please read it for us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So this is 1 minute. Thank you. Oh, people sitting in distant towns, enjoying a meal. Listen, look closely, for our tears are mixed in every morsel you eat. Back then we shed sweat to nourish the world, but today they come to snatch away our very life. This soil is not just mud to us, she is our birth mother. We say birth mother because we call ourselves as the son of the soil, and earth is like mother to us, not like she's our mother. Tell us, is it justice to ask us to sell our factories, the production houses, that is the land that produces the food, before you tear open the womb of the goddesses clad in green? Grant us mercy, death, and end us right here. So this is the paragraph where we are saying, you're not just asking us the land, you're just killing us. Just give us a mercy, death. Let's be done with. Why slow poisoning? Why kill us slowly? If the farmer loses his land tomorrow, there is no food for you either. Can you grow gold in forest of cement? Wake up, city dwellers. This is not just our village sorrow. Your life can't stand tall in the grave of the provider. 5,000 families, and each family of 8 people, 12 people, that's each family. And there's only one person working in the land. He tills the land, and rest of the family members, they do help, but the son of the soil, the man who tills the soil, is the one who works hard day and night. Early in the morning, he eats curd rice with chili, and entire day till evening he doesn't eat anything. And then in the evening, his wife or the woman of the house will come, serve him food, and then he puts his tent on top of the field, and he watches over. Because night there would be thieves, there have been so many hazards. He would wait out the entire night protecting the land. When you touch our food, remember us just once and join your voice with ours. Let our land remain ours. Not mine's, ours. So even you are included.
Beautiful.
So moving.
Susan, Susan, may I ask that you draft a simple note on behalf of the trustees, and then you review it with Patrick and the rest of us? You have our
Yes,
you have our email addresses.
yes,
And then we'll make it available to Marty.
yes.
Um,
And maybe Marty can also let us know whether we've written something that we need to improve in some way. But I also have a question. Marty, where is Vandana Shiva in this struggle with the farmers?
Where is? I didn't
Well,
get the.
I'm sorry, Vandana Shiva, who saves all the seeds and has helped the farmers for so many years. Is she helping?
There are people, I still haven't met many others who are there. There are many people who are in the process of coming to us. We have been connecting to many people who are helping us out, yes.
Okay.
Love, this type of fight is a political type thing, and it drains the very soul.
Yes.
I have been in this fight ever since 1999, continuously. I began to fight with FSA, and 41 years ago, be this March, it'd be 41 years in the Pickford versus Glickman, where I became a claimant, and one of the factors in that particular case for the 66,000 denied farmers. I have been fighting that for 25 years. We got a small payout 2 years ago. Now IRS is telling us that on that payout, we have to pay taxes. Not only are they requiring taxes, it was supposed to be an award. Now they have dubbed it a grant with taxes, and those taxes is not the minimum taxes, but they are also been accrued in, so they say, and they are now like 40% of the amount that you receive. So this is a long, hard, devastating battle. But one thing I will tell all peoples, if you take away from those that own the land and they cannot provide food for themselves, they become the subject to those who provided for them. That's what I go to Washington, and that's what I've been fighting for. I have devastated my finances going back and forth to Washington over these 25 years because it has been at my own expense. I have not received a dime from the government to cover it. I work with the peoples in my area and peoples from other areas that write to me. It has been catastrophic. It has been devastating. But, God called us to a service. We have to answer the call. And what I do is the very best that I can. I give my best. I give my best to the cause and continue to fight. Now I have learned that I don't have to be depressed, that I can just do what I can do and leave it in the hands of God. Because what the law has done, put us on a merry-go-round. They have put us on a merry-go-round. And when you get off, you break your leg.
Mother, Dr. Queen Mother, you are in fact known as Mother No Wonder. And in fact, uh, you have been inspirational to me on this, that when these people came and spoke to me, whom all should I speak to? And why now international is because I did read about the work, what you have been doing on the net, and it's mind blowing, it's fabulous.
Horrible. It's horrible.
Yes.
I've been to Congress 5 times, testified on record. It's in my eyes. They refused to allow me to go before the court, even though they came before the Judiciary Congress, and they declared that my fundamental due process right had been destroyed. I still have not been able to get the case of the farm before a judicial judge. How is that justice? I'm still fighting.
I have a lot to learn from you on this struggle.
So, friends, one of the things that we are planning for Patriots Day that, Madi, we can tie into your work, which is the 17th through the 20th of April, there's a good chance that Dennis Kucinich, who's really one of the true voices within politics, a former congressman from Ohio who sponsored the bill to establish a Department of Peace. We're looking to an event in Concord, and Queen Mother, it'd be wonderful to have you there, which would have different aspects to it. One aspect is after the Salem witch trials, which most people have heard about, the Massachusetts legislature issued an apology and a day of fasting and a day of prayer and even reparations. We're building on that, and we haven't found the language yet, but basically calling for a confession, by our legal system. And we're inviting Chief Justice Neil Gorsuch, who has tremendous integrity, to really address the fact that our legal system, we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice. It begins with establishing justice. Then it goes on to our well-being and our security and our defense. It all begins with establishing justice. So what we're looking at is to have a day, or these days, where, and it's all in formulation, but where we will pick up what the Massachusetts legislature did after the Salem witch trials, and that is, we were wrong. We apologize. We are going to pray and fast, and we're going to make restitution, because it's been that way, as many people know, particularly for our Native American and African American brothers and sisters, ongoing. And Queen Mother has described that. And Michelle Alexander, in her book, The New Jim Crow, has spoken of the same thing. And what we're bringing into this with Dennis Kucinich, and I hope he'll be with us next Sunday night, is we are inviting Dennis, if he passes muster, if he's approved by his sisters, to assume the mantle of constitutional president of the United States, as in the District of Columbia, to assume the mantle of constitutional governor. And by constitutional governor, what I mean is that the Constitution doesn't say we, the Democrats, or we, the Republicans, but we, the people. And if a politician runs on a partisan platform as Republican or Democrat, I would say an argument can be made that he's violating his oath to the Constitution. An argument can be made, but be that as it may, I'll be speaking with Dennis, as I have with Tom Porter, who's sort of a godfather, who's been given the greatest honor given to a member of the Iroquois Confederation. Tom is a Mohawk, and he's the one who tells the story of the Peacemaker, a 3-day story. And so once we have a key meeting on Tuesday, and then after Dennis and I speak, if Dennis is open, then I'm going to go to Tom and say, Tom, your chiefs, as Tom knows much better than I do, were invited by Franklin and Jefferson and Madison and Tom Paine in particular to attend the Albany Congress. Because the Congress in 1754, where the colonies had to confederate, and they needed counsel, and the Iroquois Confederation was the most impressive of all confederations. And the Iroquois chiefs came and spoke to the commissioners, and much of their advice was taken except for the role of women, as we've discussed before. And the role of women was, it was the women who determined what young boy, as he grew up, was to become the leader. So the women, with their good mothers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers' eye, watched the little boys growing up, standing on their feet, how they interacted, how they stood, and they determined who would be the chief. Number one, they also determined whether a conflict warranted being escalated to war, to which they would then send their sons and husbands and brothers and fathers. This advice the commissioners did not take. So we need to go back and do it right this time. And so I'll be saying to Dennis, if he's up for it, and maybe Susan can say a word about Dennis, because she's also worked very closely with him, is, Dennis, if you pass muster from the Mohawk mothers and grandmothers, and then the Iroquois mothers and grandmothers, and Tom would arrange this, there's no one better who could, and then the American women, your sisters, and then since Tom Paine said the cause of America is the cause of all humankind, if you pass muster with the women of the world, then we invite you to assume the mantle of constitutional president and preside, serve the people. So that's what's unfolding. And Madi, what your work can be brought in, because the cause of America is the cause of all humankind, for better, for worse, if not for better. So I wanted to give that update. And Susan, do you want to say a word about Dennis, for those who don't know?
Sure. When I first encountered Dennis Kucinich back about 25 years ago, maybe more, he revealed that he was one of 7 children, the eldest, and that all 7 children and the 2 parents who had no money often had to live in their car. They lived in Ohio. It was very cold. They had many, many cold nights and continually wished for something better. His father worked and worked and worked and finally died, and then they had nothing again. So he worked his whole life to try to get to a place where he could help the people, and he finally did. He became a politician in Ohio first, and he was the mayor of Cleveland, and then he went on to, he had some dark times, some difficult times, but became a U.S. representative. He actually ran for president twice. And he really is a person who is nonpartisan. He doesn't fit the mold of Democrat or Republican, but he is very much for peace and for the people. And not just for the American people. He is for the people of all the world. I think his family was originally from Croatia. So I identified closely with him because I had had to live in a car and was the eldest of many children, and also was, very, very ill and had circumstances like his terrible circumstances. So I really appreciate Dennis and his deep understanding of the suffering of the people in the world. And I think if we can look to Buddhism a little bit, and I'm not a Buddhist, but I appreciate Buddhism and how there is a grounding. It's almost as if the foundation is an understanding that life is suffering, but our mission, in my view, is to alleviate suffering. And so that's what my life is about. So wherever we find that, and particularly now with not just the farmers in India who have always suffered terribly with encroachments of, big factories and big wealthy people who want to take their land and take their seeds and give them what are called, terminator seeds that will destroy their produce. But farmers all over the world, the farmers here in the US are they're losing their farms all the time. They can't support them. I was just on a call with some of the top people helping the farmers in the US, and it's just a horrific situation. I forget how many farms per day are being lost to, very, very big wealthy people who are not going to use them to produce food for the people. So, in fact, there's a farm to which I have access here in Florida, and another to which I have access in New York State, and there's no money to get them going so that we could just start, getting something growing. Right here in our own little place, we do have some trees and so on, but what's hurting us so badly is geoengineering, changing, weather modification, and the poisons that are being put in the atmosphere all over the world because they come to ground and then the plants can't grow and then the insects die. We don't have the pollinators and so on. So we're resisting all of this, trying to correct all of it, and we have ways to do that. But in the meantime, we need to find somehow, as Dr. Berenice has said, we need to support somehow or get support for the farmers, all the farmers of the world. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Marty, go ahead.
Please, Stuart, can I please add something?
Sure.
What Susan just said was very profound. Let's go back. Let's rewind a moment and think about what you just read at the beginning of this session about us listening to ourselves and how American culture does things. How do we put what Susan just said into the context? I think that needs to be read again, what you just read at the beginning, because now that we've talked about the farmers and we've talked about these things that Marty brought up, how does that fit into what you read at the beginning? And I yield.
Good. So I'll just say that briefly, then let's go back to Marty. So this peculiar odd matter that he's addressing is how our inability to listen to one of the founding thinkers of our culture, Ralph Waldo Emerson, shows itself as an inability to listen to ourself, to our own best thoughts. And he talks about the repression of thinking. And just to understand Emerson, he brought us a resurrection wisdom, because virtually everybody he loved, he lost. His father, his grandfather, 5 siblings. He dared to fall in love with a young woman. A few months later, she was coughing up blood. She died. He didn't give up on love. He married again. He had a beloved son who was taken from him. He said, "I'm defeated all the time, yet to victory I am born. I am defeated all the time, and yet to victory I am born." So, Patrick, the refusal to listen to ourselves, to our own best thoughts, and he speaks about the repression of thinking.
And there you have it. What is in our best interest and our best thoughts would be to make sure that our food comes from people who put their hands in the soil and till the soil and do what the work is, instead of the factories coming in and making what they call the Franken food, that there's no love put into it. It's just mass production. And these smaller farmers, like what Mahdi is talking about, we have them here in Tuskegee. That's why it moved me so much, because they are seeking to poison the land, poison the waters. We just had an insecticide poisoning of one of our rivers. So this is very important, that American culture doesn't seem to get it, that American culture is divided in so many different ways. But one of the things that we look at as Black people is we look at the soil, we look at these basic things of getting your food, shelter, clothing. Those things are non-negotiable. And it's just interesting to see people speaking of these things philosophically without the concern of the actual people and the people that are producing it. That's why I think what Mahdi is saying is so very, very profound. To speak to these people, you can't grow food on your concrete city jungles. You can't do it. You have to depend on people out there making the food. And Franken food is not helping the cause. It's poisoning people with their chemicals and all that stuff. So I totally applaud what Mahdi is doing right now. And whatever I can do to help, I will do it. But this brings us all the way back around to that discussion of us, the culture of America, and not really listening to itself. What the spirit would tell them is, this is something that we need to protect. This is sacred, and we shouldn't touch it. It should not be allowed. And I yield.
Thank you. Let's hear from Mahdi, and then we have dear Nikki with us, who's been listening, as she always does, listening. So Mahdi, what would you like to add? And then let's invite Nikki to offer some thoughts.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. This means a lot. And in this journey, there's one more thing that I got into. And again, inspiration was Stuart G for this, when he mentioned that he was supporting Dennis. So here in India, locally, I found a politician, in fact, there are 2 of them who are aspiring politicians. And I said, let me talk to them. Tomorrow, if they can become the leaders, who would be different, not in just terms of the corrupt political leaders that we see today, who want to spend money in the electioneering and then earn money again so that they can spend money to win the next elections. But then again, if they can look at the process in a completely different manner, work on the elections in a way that they would win, but not by spending the money from the corporates, but by spending money on their own, money from the public, raising funds from the public, and winning the elections. That would mean a lot of difference. And today, the youngsters who are coming into politics need to understand that politics is not dirty, but it's a way in which they can help lead country to be better. So that's another journey that I've just started. with two people. So, in fact, I would be bringing them to the university for them to understand that across the world there are such wonderful people who are at the thought not just to make money and become the richest people in the world, but help people along the way. Thank you for listening to
Beautiful.
me.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Monty, I want you to know that, I understand your frustration. I also understand your need because I'm in the same need because you don't have what you
You have
need
been there, mother. You have been there.
to try and get what you need in order to farm your land because you have to take care of the soil in order for the soil to take care of you. And only those that love the land realize that what you put in is what you get out. And like I said, I have been before Congress on 5 different occasions, and I have read the Dred Scott ruling. And in that Dred Scott ruling, for those of us that are dark skinned, it's still surviving today because we can't get due process and we cannot get justice. Even though we vote for those that we put in office, because they are men that does not have integrity. They tell us what we want to hear, and then once they get in there, they work against progress for those that are underserved, underdeserved, as they call. And we fall in that category. And because we fall in that category, we suffer. I don't like to talk about it, and I say very little about it. I really suffer because they have destroyed my financial stability. It's destroyed, But complaining does not help. Even though they have destroyed that safety net, you have to still continue to do what God called you to do. So you press forward, and sometimes you do without food. And if you have to, you do without the lights. Fortunate for me, I got a well of water. I don't have to do without the water. I don't have to worry about the water. I can go out and draw me a bucket of water if I have to. But I'm on city water and required to be on it because I'm in the city limit, even though my land is farmland. The law just does not favor those that are less than. But if you allow it to determine who we are, we can't allow it to take away our integrity. And we have to fight for justice and pray for peace.
Yep. Yep. Nikki, anything you'd like to offer?
I've been putting my offerings in the chat as the people are speaking. So just go to the chat, click on the links, and glean what you can. I don't know if I put them in other calls or not, but it kind of came to mind. And one of them is the 16 personalities, where you see that we are in the minority, and yet we're the majority of people that are out there. And they market to the majority, and the majority are going to do what they're going to do because, hey, they told us to do it. So, yeah, it's all for getting well, all right? And sharing the truth, the objective truth, and not what somebody said because they said they've been doing research on this or research on that, but get to the root of the problems, and never mind the twigs and the branches and the trunk. And that's where I go. And like I said, we're all part of the body. Bodies have an asshole. That's where the shit gets let out. And that's me. Okay? So go for it. Flush the toilet when you're done.
Thank you, Nikki. We have another colleague here who's been very quiet. Sometimes he does different things at the same time. But Andrew, are you there? And any words you wish to offer?
Yes, I'm here, but I'm under the weather and under the cover. So I appreciate listening, but I have nothing to contribute at this time. Thank you.
Okay. So, Susan, you're going to draft something and review it with Patrick and then eventually with Madi on behalf of the trustees of the Center for American Studies.
Sure. And I think with everyone, I mean, I would love to have, Nikki and Queen Mother's and everybody's input, really, and Andrew's, everybody should have input. And I guess I just need some guidance then from Madi as to, what, to whom would we be writing this letter and what would be the purpose? What do we want the outcome to be? And maybe we're writing it to multiple people.
So I would suggest, Madi, that you do a rough draft of a letter from the Center for American Studies. Please send it to Susan and she'll go over it and then she'll forward it to the other trustees. And a rough draft, if you don't have it yet, of a letter from Queen Mother, who's in a dual capacity. So you do both. If you'd send both to us.
Will do.
And then those who review it, if there are other affiliations that they have, like the World Council on Mayors, they can, consider bringing that forward as well. So let's proceed that way. If you'd send it to Queen Mother and to Susan. And friends, what I'd like to say is that I've spoken with Dennis Kucinich a number of times, and he's used the word, I'm very grateful, Stuart, because he knows his calling. He was the boy mayor of Cleveland, and he took on the utility companies on behalf of the people, and they didn't like it. And so they defeated him. They kicked him out, and he was, as Susan said, in his car, living out of his car. And I came to know Dennis as he was running for president. And the night, I may have shared this story, but I think it's an important one. It gives you a sense of what our work can be together, all of us together. I made an appointment to have breakfast with Dennis the morning after he addressed the nation with the other Democratic candidates. And he was in the second tier of three. He wasn't with the Bill Bradleys and the John Kerrys. He was in the second tier, and he wasn't afforded the respect of the other candidates. So imagine he and his staff had been planning for months his 4 minutes to address the nation and the world. And what happens? When his turn comes, the interviewer, I think it was Ted Koppel, threw him a curveball and said, Congressman Kucinich, we heard that as a boy mayor of Newton, of Cleveland, you bankrupted the city. So here Dennis had been preparing, He knows exactly what he's going to say, and he's thrown this curveball. And in classic Kucinich fashion, he spoke with power and force and speed. And the next moment at breakfast, I said, Dennis, imagine if you'd responded as follows to Ted Koppel. Why do you say that, Ted? Pause. On national television, pause. Do you know the facts? Pause. Are you interested in the truth? Pause. I said, Dennis, I think if you'd responded that way, instead of filling the 4 minutes with so much that people could probably not even remember, that everybody watching you, the millions, would have moved to the edge of their seat. Because they would have, if they didn't know whether you bankrupted or did not bankrupt the city of Cleveland, they would have known that you know how to speak truth to power. You know how to speak truth to power. And Dennis' response was to ask me to run his first in the nation primary. We have a deep connection. But my point isn't me, it's you all. We have the opportunity. What we're saying to Dennis, if he gets the blessings of his sisters, beginning with the Mohawks in the Iroquois, and then all of the women, if he gets their blessing, we're just saying, Dennis, assume the mantle of constitutional president, not Democratic, not Republican, and just serve. Proclaim victory, turn the campaign into a celebration on behalf of we the people, and just serve. As Buckminster Fuller said, if the system's broken, don't fuss with it. Just create a better system, or as Emerson said, a better mousetrap. And I said, Dennis, if you really are serving the people with your sisters behind you, then if you come to town, and if Donald Trump comes to town, and if Joe Biden comes to town, and you're serving the people, and they know it, then they're going to show up where you are, because that's what's real, if we can communicate it. So I think Dennis may be with us next Sunday, assuming schedules work. I'll be speaking with him in the middle of this week. And I want him to meet all of you. All of you. He knows Susan. He values Susan. But all of you. Because this is what the Center for American Studies is. And I believe that if this unfolds, I think Tom Porter, the Mohawk elder, he's in our life for a reason. I think something remarkable can happen if the women of the world, beginning with the Mohawks and the Iroquois, get behind him, if he proves himself, if he answers their question about their sons and grandsons and great-grandsons, then I think something remarkable can happen, and we will return to Albany. And I've been to that spot, and I've done prayer and meditation where the Albany Congress was held. We can return to that spot. And who knows, with the good graces of Mother Mary and everybody else, who knows what can unfold. So this is an update. And I invite any comments as we draw this towards its conclusion. Any thoughts, any comments from anybody? Let me start with Andrew once again. We did hear his voice. Andrew, anything you wish to say?
Well, I'd like to kind of go back to what Marty and you started a couple of weeks ago. As I understand it, Marty had the idea that it's important for the Center for American Studies at Concord, particularly the Global Village University, have a distinct presence, a unique presence online. Marty, I believe that's correct. And I believe you began the process of identifying that and creating a beginning point that could be uniquely defined as a place where online at least, the Center for American Studies at Concord, could be found. I believe also that that needs to be further developed. And as we now have the technological ability within Patrick and perhaps within others, Stuart, we need to get access to the website itself to begin to have that to become more reflective of our efforts and interactive with our activities, even if we begin with just one initiative, such as this Global Village University. And perhaps there you may be able to even do something as simple as link that to your YouTube site. And unfortunately, your YouTube site has to be linked to your Gmail account. So it can't be from this info@concordium.us. I believe it must be from Stuart B. Weeks at gmail.com, but then begin there to have representations of what your end result is intended to be, which could begin with something as simple as an excerpt from tonight's and further ongoing weekly offerings from the Global Village University to actually demonstrate to people what it's all about and to build momentum for those who have an interest in participating to join in that collaboration and grow your unique footprint for people that A, subscribe perhaps to that channel, or B, who perhaps online register for a particular initiative to identify where it fits in their life. So I'll put a pin in it there and yield the floor. Thank you.
Andrew, thank you. So let's work with that. Marty, can you send us a memo of next steps and include Andrew as well, next steps to move in this direction? Because if Dennis says yes, and he might well, then all of a sudden this is becoming national and international. We have a wonderful opportunity.
Sure.
So if,
I would point out as well. Oh, sorry.
go ahead,
May
Susan.
I
Go ahead.
say something more about Dennis? Dennis and his wife, a couple of years ago, purchased, I guess he became much more wealthy after marrying her. And they purchased about 100 acres of land in upstate New York, north of New York City. And I know that they wanted to make this a place of welcome, of hospitality for people. Perhaps it's a place that can be farmed as well. We really need to get back our farming culture, which has been just so suppressed and lost, and use this also as a basis, a seed to go forward. There are people in the current U.S. federal administration that are not only wanting to promote more farming and small farming, pure farming, organic permaculture farming, or traditional farming like the Amish, but also want to see this spread throughout the world. And so there are some good people whom we can tap into with this, and certainly Dennis Kucinich would have access also to people who can help with this. I do want to say one thing that, Stuart, when you're in a major TV debate, you cannot turn the question back to anyone else because you will lose your your precious little 4 minutes. Had he asked those questions, he would have lost everything. But because that's how it works. So while I appreciate your wisdom in the concept, had it worked, it would not have worked. And I'm sure Dennis knew that very well. I'll give you one example. One time I had to arrange 3 top researchers to send to Health Canada. And this was the one time when we had a chance in Canada to provide the health science about telecommunications facilities and their radiation, their microwave radiation. And we picked the very best people from all over the world. Canada flew them in at thousands of dollars of expense and put them up in hotels and so on. And two of the three researchers had prepared their 10-minute talks, and one of them had not. He was the head guy, the most important guy. And instead of giving his presentation, he said, well, this is harmful, but what do you think, public officials? And he threw away in the trash the precious 10 minutes to defend all of us on the entire globe, really, because this was a very precious time that would have been quoted for years to come. And I've taken him to task on this because I was responsible for choosing him above all the other people I could have chosen. And he threw away his time. So I just want to say I respect what Dennis did, in fact, to use the time for the good. And if he does come next Sunday, we need to appreciate that he's the type of person that is more to the point and more succinct than all of us. Thank you.
So, Susan, allow me to say, if I may, Dennis realized that that's exactly what he should have said. And in such moments, there's no scheme, there's no rules. It is the moment, the inspiration of the moment. And when I share that story with others, that even if they didn't know whether he did or did not bankrupt the city of Cleveland, they would have known something else. That is, he knows how to speak truth to power. And that's why Dennis, that's why the connection began. So we don't need to go into that at great length, but these are not, these are moments that come with a bit of grace. I do understand and respect your point. I think this was a bit of a different situation, but be that as it is, let's draw this towards a conclusion. Let's invite comments let's just go around the circle, invite any concluding comments. And then Queen Mother will ask her to give a final prayer. So Louis, Patrick, Nikki, Mari, Antonia, any final comments?
Yes, definitely. The action forwarded by Susan, Mali, definitely would like to participate in that and put my little grain of thought into that. As far as what Andrew just stated, I have in many occasions in the past indicated that in order for the Center for American Studies and for the university to be known, we have to have a presence. It cannot be directly through the Center for American Studies and one link is everything. No. Unfortunately, moving forward and looking at the future, the university has to have its own link and presence in order to get people involved and have us have those questions connected to us or sent to the center and the university so that any one of us can answer those desperate questions of people wanted to join the university because they think or they see it as an option, as an alternative. But if the university is not exposed, is not present in the realm of the communications and the platforms, by word of mouth, yes, it's going to get known, but not as much as having a presence. And I vote for that, and Andrew and I have talked about that, and the technology is there in order to have it get done really quick.
Thank you. Very important. Thank you. Thank you.
Colonel Luigi, yes. In fact, we did start this exercise the last year, the December month. And as of now, the Google location is set. And as Andrew mentioned, we need to create the channel. And that would be the next step. We can put the channel there. And very rightly said, we need to have two different domains, websites. One for the university, mentioning the overall research work, books, the journals, and various courses offered. And I'm getting into that process of understanding the whole thing. So once I have that in place, I would place to the board of trustees site architecture, a site map of how a university website for Concord would look like. And then I would propose a separate domain for the Center for American Studies, a link within the university website, but separately away, making its own presence and offering its content, offering its courses there. So this is what I would come up with in a short while. If I can possibly have another session with the board of trustees, especially yourself, Andrew G, and Stuart G, and Susan G, giving me some valuable suggestions on how the university platform is. I would be able to segregate the content and build this. So we would have a complete presence.
Marty, would you suggest a time that would work for you so we can really move with this? Would you suggest a time this week, and then let's see if it works for others here?
Any day, same time as we sat today. Any day is fine.
So can we say Wednesday at 8 p.m.?
Yes, surely.
So friends, anybody who wants to take part in that, Wednesday at 8 p.m. And if you could send us, Marty, to me, or you have other email addresses, what you propose, what you want us to be thinking about.
Yep.
That would be great.
Great. Yes,
Thank you.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
I think it's a great idea. I'm definitely open to help out if you all need any help from me.
Thank you, Antonia. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Any other final comments, Antonia? And then we'll go around to Patrick and Nikki before Queen Mother concludes.
I think it's a great start, and I am, however I can help, I'm here. I'm in New York for a while, so please, let me know.
Yeah, Antonia's
Good.
website is fab. Her creativity is great.
Nice to have you with us, dear sister. Nice to have you with us. Patrick, any final comments from your side?
Yes. I think what Marty said is very profound, and I agree with Andrew as well. One of the most important things that Andrew said was about us having that social media presence. And I want to point to a specific thing, making little clips of what we're doing, like say sharing some of this information that we're talking about today. This was a very profound meeting, and the writing that Marty put out there into the chat, I think some discussion of that would be extremely profound in a short piece that could go into the machine of our social media platform. I think it's critical to get that platform out there and start putting things in there from the, and Marty's right, we have to have two. The Global Village University has to stand alone. Center for American Studies has to stand alone. They both have missions that are congruent, but they both need their own presence. And that is so vital, because today, technology and these people, anybody below 40, 50 years old, they are into this technology hardcore. And so this is how we're going to reach people. The cable television, all of these other methods, they are kind of falling to the wayside. So I am totally all in with what Madi is doing, and I think that this could be a spark that leads to something powerful, because dealing with the land, that makes a difference. And what Andrew said about using social media, that's kind of like bridging the gap between high technology and being people of the soil. And I think that that's a good bond. And I yield.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Nikki, anything you'd like to say in conclusion?
No, I just listening and putting in my 2 cents, but pennies are going out of style, so just use them for what they're worth. Okay, I yield, but I'd like to come on to the call when you have it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikki. So this has been a wonderful informal evening. I want to invite Queen Mother to give a final prayer. And I'd like to invite each of you to seriously consider inviting 2 people you know to join us next Sunday. 2 people you know, to think about it. Give them the link on our website, which is under educational programs for the Global Village University. I'll put it in the chat, but just reach out. We have Jimmy, Nikki, whose dear father passed away, who we've been in touch with. But I invite each of you to think of at least 2 people and to give them a heartfelt invitation to join us. I will put the link in the chat for the Global Village University. And Queen Mother, any final comments from your side before the prayer?
Mr. Chairman, I think we have had a wonderful discussion for today, and I think we'll let it rest on that and go forth from that.
Buying a stadium outdoor.
Sorry, guys.
Now, as we
If
come
people could go
to
on mute. Yep, go ahead. I'm sorry.
now, as we come to the close of this session, we thank you, Lord, for what ears have heard. May we open our hearts to receive. May we be instructed as to how we need to implement these programs. We ask you to give us strength, give us wisdom, knowledge, understanding. Allow us to work together in redemption love. Allow us to keep each other under prayer, that we may aid and assist, strengthen, knowing that we are our brother's keepers. Give us, O Lord, as we go to our respective place, until we meet again, is our prayer. In your Son Jesus' name, we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Amen.
Thank you, sister.
Susan, I'm going to give you a quick call on a different matter related to a certain general we know
Okay.
when we hang up. But thank you all very, very much. And again, hope you can each think of 2 friends to invite. And we'll gather perhaps with Dennis if all comes as I think it may unfold. I'll let you all know. But thank you very, very much. Blessings.
Bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
Blessings.
Good night.
Good evening, all.
Thank you.
Good night.